And the concern within the medical community and at FDA is, well, we're really worried that bad things will happen, right? So it's this hyper focus on the negative outcome as opposed to being aware that not seeing the positive outcomes is also a type of a harm that you are inflicting as a system. And so we're spending a large amount of time.
Yeah, going back to so I think you identified how a system can just work out with people just kind of complying and kind of doing status quo assessments and thinking, well, everything's working. The third things, right? So if you have a lot of people involved in conspiracies, but also if there's not a lot of pressure, the third thing is the one that you, I thought, identified at the beginning, and hope you can talk a little bit more about. But uh, if you have people who have a very strong ideology, very zealous about something or believe
Yeah.
something very strongly, then even if there's a lot of pressure and even if there are several people involved in the conspiracy, that ideology can unite them and actually,
Yeah.
solidify them in their position in spite of pressure and
Yeah.
everything. So you were talking a little bit. I don't know that you would have called all the people uh, in government and business and the scientific community zealous for an ideology, but you did talk about a lack of diversity. So there
Yes.
is kind of one
There's
preeminent ideology. Could you talk about
Yeah,
that?
there's a monolithic culture, I think, that's emerging out of that. And we've seen, and some other people have talked about this, where a lot of the drug companies, for instance, they will bow to just about anything that FDA asks of them or is looking for, because to some extent it's in their best interest for survival as an organization to just do whatever FDA is asking of them. And I see this leading to, in many cases, some fundamentally unscientific approaches to the way that we manage risk, and the way that we advance public health. And so one clear example in my mind is around something called biocompatibility testing. And some experts could very well disagree with me, but I've looked at literally hundreds of medical device submissions. So I'm talking specifically about medical devices here, and I've heard of situations where the biocompatibility testing results required a change in materials. I've heard that this has happened. I've personally never seen it. So the only thing I've ever seen happen is that more tests are run, and those additional tests demonstrate that the materials are fine. So if over the course of hundreds and hundreds of devices, we have a less than 1% likelihood that a particular test is going to find anything meaningful, probably we should be looking at other metrics and other approaches to find out what that thing is that we should be controlling for, as opposed to slaughtering lots of animals, doing lots of expensive testing for very little, if any, benefit in most cases. Um, and you actually have a delay in time. So all of this testing takes a certain amount of time. And that means that these innovations take longer to get to market. They take longer to get a first sale. It takes longer to get into a patient to see if it works. And that means that for most of those products that are perfectly safe, and they get demonstrated to be safe by just conducting more testing that takes more time, um, those products end up not getting to market as quickly. And then you're not able to see whether it works or doesn't work, and sort of fail fast, which is kind of the Silicon Valley approach to, more software kinds of products. And the concern within the medical community and at FDA is, well, we're really worried that bad things will happen, right? So it's this hyper focus on the negative outcome as opposed to being aware that not seeing the positive outcomes is also a type of a harm that you are inflicting as a system. And so we're spending a large amount of time and energy on solutions that don't work, that we don't know don't work until much later in the process, after we spent lots and lots of money developing them and doing all of this testing. And there are probably some slightly different approaches to make sure that we're adequately controlling for those risks, while accelerating the overall process so that you can get a solution into a subject. Because even if it's safe, let's say that there's a product which is safe from a material standpoint, right? So if you put it inside your body, it's not going to cause some really scary side effect, right? Even then, if it doesn't provide the benefit, if there's no benefit, then no level of risk is tolerable, right? So if it doesn't help you, it doesn't matter that it's safe, because we shouldn't bother to spend the time and energy and take the risks of a surgical procedure to put it inside of you. And we didn't find that out until years down the line, after we'd done all of this preclinical work. And so a lot of that work is something that we're doing simply because we've always done it. And there's some initiatives to try to get away from certain types of animal testing and do other tests. But I would say, my view in the current landscape that we have, there should be some alternate approaches to how we manage safety. So if you use these particular materials that are manufactured using these specific approaches, using these specific molds and manufacturing aids, then we don't have any questions for you. So you put this into a totally different bucket. But that's not what we do right now. And that would significantly help advance innovation and help advance the public health. But nobody's talking about those kinds of things. Everybody's just very fixated in the ruts that we've already made in the road, and nobody's looking for alternate solutions to address this on a more systemic level. And the issue we run into here is no individual company will be served by trying to rock the boat, right? But the overall industry is harmed because we've just locked ourselves into this particular approach, and everybody takes longer. There's another interesting diagram, about strings and springs and traffic conditions. So this idea that, you can have a fastest route if it's just one car or a small number of cars on a small road. But what ends up happening is you get to an equilibrium where everybody's taking longer to get to their destination than if everybody just used an optimal route. So, and there's no way to optimize the system to speed it up once it's already in place, because everybody has their individual incentive, which drives the overall system to be less efficient. And that's what I see happening within medical device review and drug review, and just in terms of how FDA, operates. So you have that side of things where you have this inefficiency, but then on the flip side, you have this very large barrier to entry for new people, coming in, and it's almost inefficient by design because it will kill, new companies coming in. So whether that's what the system intended or it's just a happy accident for big players, there's no real incentive for the big players today, for the, billion and, larger valued companies to change the system, because currently it works in their favor to prevent competition from coming and eating their lunch.